The Australian Outback. Australia, the remote continent set between the Pacific and Indian Oceans, map above, has been extensively settled along its coastlands. The Outback is the name given to the continent's sparsely populated interior, an expanse of plains, deserts, and no mountains, shaded areas on map right. On the Outback's more fertile fringes are savannas of dwarf eucalyptus and acacia's green shading. Further inland, where rainfall is infrequent and rarely exceeds 10 inches a year, the savannas give way to scrubby grasslands and dune and stony deserts brown, which embrace the center red, often called the red center, because of the predominant color of its sands. This region, the heart of the Outback, is crisscrossed by the channels of rivers that seldom flow and dotted by lake beds that hardly ever fill. Here and there, the plants of the center are studded by monolithic rocky outcrops and ancient mountains, including the MacDonnell Ranges, which their gorgeous and undulating ridges and the jagged blue peaks of the Flanders Ranges. And this is the Australian Outback. A strip of scattered mallee trees cuts across the red spinifex-covered outback plain north of Broken Hill. The irregular patches of bare sand are dried beds of shallow pools that fill quickly during the infrequent rainstorms and evaporate within hours under the hot outback sun. See that? Look at all these spotches. A fat-tailed dunnart, one of the many small marsupials of the Outback, chews on a gecko that it has just caught. Although it is not bigger than a domestic mouse, the dunnart is a fierce nocturnal carnivore that preys on small birds, mice, and centipedes. It stores excess food in its tail as fat, drawing upon this reserve during lean times. This is a dunnart chewing on a gecko. Watercut gullies vein a low-lying dune in New South Wales. The dune is made up of windblown deposits from the dried-up bed of nearby Lake Mungo. This is the dune in New South Wales. An Australian pelican preens itself by the shore of an inland lake in the southwest Queensland. This species keeps its plumage clean and waterproof by using its bill to spread a thin layer of oil over its feathers. The oil is secreted by a gland at the base of the pelican's tail. This is an Australian pelican. Like ridges turned up by a giant plow, red longitudinal dunes stripe the Simpson Desert of southeast of Alice Springs. The dunes, which are as much as 100 feet high, are aligned parallel with the prevailing southeasterly wind. Each a compacted crest on a core of unconsolidated sand. See that? An accustomed covering of greenery above cloaks looping sandhills near Ayers Rock. In an area where there is no constant prevailing wind to impose a regular dune pattern, the unusually heavy rains have triggered off the growth of dormant desert plants. You can see all the greenery growing in the dunes. Winding gullies left have been etched between the ridges of the Simpson Desert by corkscrewing air currents flowing in the direction of the camera. Each Y junction was formed when a vortex rose from the ground and a neighboring eddy cut to join its path. You look at all the cuts and crevices. An ancient quartzite outcrop of the MacDonald Ranges cuts through longitudinal dunes on the Simpson Desert's northern ridge. On each side of the outcrop, clumps of spinifex turned green by rain's pin-cushion in the sand. The meandering lines of darker green vegetation reveal where water remains under the beds of now dry streams. See that? It's a dried up river here. Like giant wheel ruts, a pair of parallel valleys run between corrugated ridges of the MacDonald Ranges. The valleys were formed when running water scored away beds of soft shale and sandstone, isolating the resident quartzite ridges, all that is left of a once mighty chain of mountains. Yeah. The curious undulations of a region the MacDonalds above bear witness to a complex pattern of erosion. Streams running at right angles to the main valleys have cut across the grain of clearly defined rock beds, carving the ridge into a series of rounded humps that are known locally as tombstones. See that? Oh, but there's no cemetery here. The sluggish waters of the Finke River, Central Australia's longest watercourse, cut a sandy channel through the scrubland south of the MacDonald Ranges. Although the river is usually dry, a layer of moisture always remains beneath its channels, providing sustenance for the deep-rooted shrubs on its banks and justifying the name the Aborigines give it